hello. Look at you. Don't you look nice as you're listening to the podcast today? You really put yourself together for the show. Thank you very much. I am honored, sir. Well, it's Saturday, and I am here with Christian Finnegan for you. It's Memorial Day weekend. I hope you have some exciting plans, but if you don't feel bad if you're doing absolutely nothing. If you're installing a dishwasher or doing laundry or just chilling out, staying home, relaxing, reading a book, watching something, eating something, drinking, whatever you're doing, it's fine. You're not alone. Maybe you're out there in the garden like I am this weekend, because next weekend is when I'm throwing down. Next weekend, the big high school reunion for me. Our high school mascot was the Mustangs. We call it Stang Bang because we're like 18 white guys, and why not call it that? Really looking forward to next weekend. But today, it's Christian and I right here on the podcast, so I want to get to it. It's another weekend special. Unfortunately, I couldn't get Ophira to join us. That was my fault, as I tell you from the top. And then I liberate a little bit of a truth, get honest and vulnerable about my time management issues. Christian gets honest and vulnerable about his issues. We then talk about politics and the passing of the great Tina Turner and a couple of other things. I hope you enjoy this. I think it's, as always, honest and vulnerable conversation between two guys. A little bit about our struggles, a little bit about the world's struggles, and as always, a few laughs. You can follow Christian on Twitter. He's now on Blue Sky somehow, which is an invite-only thing. Hopefully I'll get my invite soon, and then I'll give you yours. Of course, we want to help make him a little extra scratch by having you subscribe. Go subscribe for free. If you like music at all, go subscribe to newmusicforold.substack.com. And then if you like it, upgrade to a paid subscription. All right, that's it. Christian Finnegan and me starts now. Finnegan time.
Dominic.
Ophira.
Absent.
Not here. My fault. I got the timing wrong, and she had to go to work. And I am a bad person. Very bad. Terrible.
I blame you.
I am working harder to schedule as much as I can ahead of time. I don't plan well, and it's really affected my life. And I wait for things. Probably one of the worst things I do is I don't plan my day and my week. I get things wrong. I'm fed up at 47. I'm fed up, Christian.
Well, and it's like you've chosen a life where planning is probably 50% of your job. You know what I mean? Most people don't have different guests you know what I mean? Yeah. You have so much random stuff to schedule. And so, yeah.
Thank you for seeing me. Yeah, it's hard when, I think if you're someone who has a different kind of schedule every day, no matter what kind of work you do, it can be really, challenging. And then things always, get sidetracked. You get kids, whatever. But yeah, I've got it under control now. I'm planning ahead, except for today. I messed up with Ophira, but it's good to see you. I'm glad that we've got a little one-on-one time. I heard you did a little bit of a new hour last night. A listener of at least one guy told me he went. The Sandman said he went and saw it. How'd it go? How'd it feel?
It ended up being more like a new 45.
Okay, that's fine.
Because a lot of it was new. And I just, sometimes when stuff is brand new like that, you don't know what it times out as.
Right.
And so yeah, it was not as long as I had thought, but that's fine.
Were people?
It was a great show. It was really fun.
People must have been pissed. I wanted an hour. Brr!
People were furious.
They ran out of it.
Let me tell you.
Pitchfork. What are we talking about? Anything surprising? Anything new? It's a little bit about your obviously recovery from open heart surgery. That's for sure.
Some of it, yeah, some of it. And then it's funny you're talking about planning. Some of it, there's a chunk that I've been working on about just trying to use a weekly planner and how much I just lie to myself when I'm making my schedule for the next day.
What do you mean?
I just write in things that I know I have no plans on doing, but just I'm trying to present the image of a mature person with his act together. But in my head, I know it's all lies.
Is there an example that you'd like to issue? I bet you a lot of people do that.
Well, I mean, I didn't talk about this last night, but it's sometimes I'll find myself writing things in code where it's a little code to myself where I'll be gather my tax info. And in my head, what I know that means is shuffle papers are on my desk for 5 minutes and then just doom scroll Twitter. Like that's really what that means in my head.
Gosh, it's so easy. And I find this happening. I'm lucky when I do catch it to lose 5 minutes to 20 minutes. It's so easy because you could have such a purpose. You go into a room to get a thing. You look at your phone, social media, news, whatever it is, an email, and boom, 20 minutes. I wonder how common. Please let us know if you're that person out there.
We're just surrounded by rabbit holes constantly. And I mean, how much time I have lost in the morning just laying in bed, scrolling Twitter. And, people say like, oh, leave your phone across the room. I understand that, but I need to listen to music to fall asleep. And so I kind of need my phone nearby. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can say that and you might do it for 10 days, but eventually you're going to start backsliding and you're going to end up just laying in bed, reading hateful political stuff.
Where are you on the smart home device, the Alexa, the Google Home, where you can yell at it?
He's like, where are you on the smart to stupid scale? I don't use any of that stuff.
Purpose?
I just never started. And so I don't find it to be a big time saver. Like the idea of having to set it up and deal with it, it feels like a net neutral at best to me. The whole like, Alexa, play whatever. Yeah. It's like, I can just pick up my phone and play it. Like, I think maybe if I didn't live in New York, if I lived in a home in the suburbs where I had a big stereo system and giant speakers and I could just sort of call out, if that's the way I consumed music, maybe that would be something I would get more out of. But, being in an apartment with thin walls and stuff, like most of the time when I'm listening to music, it's on headphones, and so I have my phone on me. There's just no reason to do that. I don't really understand in my 750 whatever square foot apartment. Like there's just no reason for me to have to call across the room to have a robot turn on a light switch. Yeah.
There's you can do almost everything on your phone. The only reason I bring it up right now is because you can do everything on your phone and you can only do a couple things on the smart device, whatever. I often use it to get things done. I say, you got 10 minutes to get this task done. Set a timer for 10 minutes. And I swear to God, if I pulled my phone out and said set a timer for 10 minutes, I'd see a text. And that would be it.
Yeah.
Potentially.
That's a good point.
And so I can keep my phone away from me at bed for the same reason that you just mentioned earlier. All right. Well, I want to hear.
Well, you're better than I am.
I don't know. I mean, listen, they know all my secrets. They don't know yours.
That is true. That is true. I am
always listening.
There is, I wouldn't say that I have a tinfoil hat. I don't think it's a conspiracy. It's like clearly this data is being collected and is not being collected for nothing. And I don't have any fear of like, oh, I'm going to personally get targeted. But it's just like, everything we do is now grist for the marketing mill, and it's chopped up and, and used to sort of spit things back at you and charge more for things that you want. And, so you're right. I don't really have any desire to let the computer minds know more about me than they already do.
And that being said, I've given up on my quest, filled with integrity quest to not join all these new social media because I've got enough and I'm just going to stick. And I don't want to use TikTok because A, I don't want to learn it. B, it's for the kids, and C, China and all that. And I am back on TikTok. Pete.Dominic. Let's go.
Yeah.
I give up. You got to do these things. If you can't just rest on your laurels and the people that know what you're doing already, who may or may not see what you're doing. You got to get new people to know what you're doing. And so there you got to be on the YouTubes.
That's where I have really failed. That is truly where I have failed.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And that is why I cannot be upset or surprised that my comedy career is sort of withering, and I don't say that as like, oh, poor me. It's like, it's a decision. I decided at a certain point, not consciously, but when I stopped sort of like, I didn't even move to Instagram. Like, I mean, I'm technically on it, but I never really learned it. Like, I don't know it fluently. Like I'll sporadically do things, but I don't use it. I don't have any fluency with it, and I have no interest in it. I've never been the kind of person who took a lot of pictures. I've never been the kind of person who cared about other people's pictures. It's just it's not my thing. And when you have to accept that comes with some consequences. And the reality is that is going to foreclose certain opportunities. That's just what it is.
Yep. It's one thing to enjoy making food. It's another thing to let people know that you made some food to sell them so that you can pay your bills. It's hard. It's hard to market and promote your stuff.
I just find it so incredibly undignified. And I know that I've lost this argument. And like there's still this sort of Gen X thing in me where I'm just like this everything is performative. It's like to me, you go on stage and that's where you perform. Right. Or you do it's like I have no problem with like people doing like front facing character videos. Like a lot of our friends do, that's great. But the idea of performing my moment to moment, day to day life just feels so gross to me. Yeah. Like here's me going to the store and I'm not really a real person, but I'm also not really doing a bit either. This is just now how I talk because everything in my life is performative and is intended to sort of perform for an audience you're not even enjoying it. You're just sort of consuming it. And it goes against every fiber of my nature, but I understand and I accept that I have lost this cultural argument. And it is not my place to judge how future generations live their lives. But,
it's so well
said. People say I'll die on this hill. But if you're going to die on this hill, you can't whine when you die.
I love that rant. That was such a dignified rant about the undignified practice that we find ourselves having to play if we want to survive and exist and God forbid thrive. I don't know how people do it either because I'm trying to do it. I thought it would be a decent idea to make a funny narrative about my colonoscopy from taking the laxative all the way to going to get the procedure and on the way out. I thought it would be somewhat dignified in terms of being a PSA to let people know, this is what happens. This is how it went for me. And I got the first few hours in, I made a bunch of little videos. I was going to link them all together and Christian, and I just gave up. And I thought, all I'm doing is this right now. I tried to take the afternoon and evening off. I still didn't take a full day off. And I still couldn't make the video work because it requires so much time and editing. And I'm looking around at these like couples on TikTok and people on Instagram. I'm like, how much time are you spending making these videos? Because it's a lot. It's a lot of time.
More so than you could stomach personally, but less than it would take you personally. Do you know what I mean? That the answer is that it dominates their lives. I'm fully convinced that these people who do these constant TikTok videos or whatever, that it completely dominates their lives, and they probably don't have one focused conversation with anyone ever in their life because they're half editing something on their phone. But also, I do think that if you swim in those waters on a day-to-day basis, you have a facility with it where you're banging them out much quicker than you ever could.
That's a good point.
Because you're sort of coming to it like you're learning a foreign language, whereas these people speak it fluent.
No, you're right. It's funny you say that, and that is actually encouraging for me because I'm not giving up. I'm going to learn all these things. I mean, when I started this podcast, it was impossible to get 3 shows up a week. It was when I had the day off in between. It wasn't a day off. I was working, but there's no way I could do another show. Now I can pretty much bang out 5 shows, 10 guests. I can get it done all on my own. And now you got to do the promoting and the marketing as well. Right. That is really challenging, and partly because it takes so long to do these things. I don't know if this is interesting for anybody to hear. It's just the idea that you said, you've got to learn these things so that they become more efficient and not quit. And I think a lot of people start to promote something, whatever their business is, using social media, and they go, hell with this. I'm never going to learn this language.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I've been at.
Yeah, it's pretty normal. I bet it's really normal for people, that certainly aren't entertainers, comedians, podcasters, whatever. Just, damn, I have a restaurant. It's like, I can't do this shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a show in Boston tomorrow night, Off Cabot Comedy and Events in Beverly, Massachusetts. Awesome. If there's anybody who lives in Massachusetts or around there, I would really love it if you would come out. It's going to be a bit, how can I say this? it's not good seats still available. Let's put it that way. And everything that could go wrong with it has gone wrong, in the sense that when I took the show, it was like, oh, great, I'll be able to visit my dad, and that'll be nice. And but I didn't realize at the time it was Memorial Day weekend, which obviously is not ideal. And then also Boston Calling, which is a giant, like, Governor's Ball in New York. It's like a giant music festival is going on this weekend. And also the Celtics, these motherfuckers who had gone down 3-0 to the Miami Heat. And I thought, oh my God, I may dodge this bullet. One sucks, last night, which means that Game 6, the crucial Game 6, will be happening during my show. And also the comedy club put the wrong time on the website. And then now today, if you go to the link earlier today, it said canceled, which it's not. It's not canceled, but you have to scroll down to see that it's not canceled. Oh, and also, did I mention I have like extended family coming? So it's going to be it could very well be my family and 8 other people.
Well, tomorrow night, if you're listening to this show, I'm going to post it right away. I just tweeted as well, because, man, I have been there. It's like you take a gig and then you don't, and then even if you were able to like look ahead and see what was happening that weekend, and it was Memorial Day weekend. We forget these things often. The Celtics play, it's just a killer. It's not had nothing to do with you.
You know,
I just shared
and the thing
it on
is,
Twitter.
I know the show itself is going to be fine. Once I hit the stage, that is fine. But it's the walking into the club and the feeling of like that they're not happy and I'm not happy, and the whole thing.
That's it's going to be a sellout.
This could be the one that ends it for me.
No, I just tweeted. I just tweeted the promo for it. It's going to be a sellout now. I have a lot of power. My Twitter feed is really something. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you about that. I don't know if Twitter's... I mean, I still love Twitter because I can go to people's timelines and see what they're saying. And if they're saying stuff, I enjoy it. And I still am meeting new people. I just met a really interesting guy today named Alex Aronson. Everybody should go follow him. Former DOJ, former Sheldon White House legal aid, doing great work. I'm still using it that way and liking it. I realize, though, that people are on principle saying they don't want to use it because of Elon Musk, especially now that he platformed Ron DeSantis. I'm not leaving because it's run by a Nazi or it's not functioning right. What are your thoughts on the state of Twitter and, more importantly, or as importantly, this whole Ron DeSantis debacle this week with Elon Musk on Twitter Spaces?
Well, I am sort of desperate to get off of it. I feel like what I've always told myself for like the past 5 years is, well, I have to be on it for my career. And then I look like, how much am I actually using it to further my career? Like, I don't really even tweet that often anymore.
I know. I miss it. I get mad when I go and check your timeline and I'm like, oh.
I know. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, but I don't really post that much. And
well, just do it for me then.
Huh?
Just post for me. Just think of me.
Okay. Well,
what would Pete want?
I don't want to touch any of that. But it's not so much that, oh God, I hate Elon. I worry that there is a frog in the pot of water thing that is happening. You know, that metaphor that people always use about the boiling, that the frog doesn't ever realize that it's boiling until they're fucking dead. And that's sort of what I worry is happening, is that just people are so addicted to it, and I include myself in this, that all of a sudden, you know, it's not even just so much that it's like he's allowing Nazis back. Like, I straight up think he's actually promoting this stuff now. Like, he's actually, you know, injecting the stuff into the algorithm. I mean, just by the people he retweets and the people he responds to, and it's starting to get like really weird, like him sort of retweeting those really incredibly racist memes, you know, where they talk about like black on black crime is 10 times more than black on white crime or white on white crime, or, you know, and all that stuff. Ooh, you know, and he'll just be like, ooh, interesting. Like the kinds of things that like straight up unvarnished professional racists post. Like, not even the sort of deniable, like your racist uncle who won't admit he's racist. No, like avowed professional racists. Like, he is now not just allowing them on the site, he is promoting them. And that, it worries me. It worries me, you know, obviously the DeSantis thing, like him aligning himself so directly with a political candidate in a way that, like, I don't think anyone with that much, first of all, no one should have that much money. Like we need to, because he wants to basically be a warlord in this country, in my opinion. He wants to basically be a ruler in all but title. He wants to basically be the kingmaker. And I worry that people aren't taking it seriously enough because he wears a t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like that he wears a leather jacket, so he couldn't be like evil, right? It really is a sort of disgusting turn of events. And I think people often, and I'm babbling a little bit, I apologize. I think people sometimes think that like fascist dictators, and I'm not calling him a fascist dictator yet, but I think people sometimes assume that authoritarians like start out hoping to become authoritarians, like that's their goal. So like, oh man, I can't wait to take over and be a Mussolini or a Franco or a Hitler or whatever, as opposed to people just having a really inflated opinion of themselves with a lot of money and a lot of power. And then people question them and they're offended by being questioned. And so they dig in harder and they push harder and they be like, well, I'm not going to be humiliated. I'm Elon Musk or whatever. And they start digging in and the Overton window of what they deem acceptable to fight their quote unquote enemies starts getting wider and wider. And, that's the same thing with Trump. I mean, Trump didn't start out thinking he was going to have people overrun the Capitol. That's where it got to when people denied him his petty little victories.
You're really good at explaining things. It's where your value always lies so much to me. I love to hear your thoughts on something I've been thinking about this week, all year. The way that you distill it is always so great. I really appreciate everything that you just said. I never thought about that. And I think it's an important point to think about where the ambitions lie and how, because all of us can become little mini dictators to some extent when we gain power, when we gain influence. And I don't think most people really have that opportunity, much less take advantage of it. But I think what you just said is a very common thing throughout human history, much less now with social media, the way that people get a little heat.
I keep coming back, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I found that to be incredibly something I can not make money off of whatsoever, but I'm happy to have the talent. But I think that if I have any kind of view into the world, it's through sort of the petty reasons that people do unpetty things, if that makes sense. Like the personality, the small petty individual reasons that motivate people to do things that then seep into the political system. And I don't know if I'm making sense now, but it's a friend of mine once said that he kind of called what I like to do social autopsy, which I've always loved that term.
Yes, I love that.
Here's why this person said this. Here's what this person actually meant when they said this. Here's the motivation for this person saying this. That's kind of what I keep coming back to when I see these sort of big quote unquote political things, is what is the sort of very human, lonely guy alone in his room motivation for somebody doing it. You're really
good at that. I love that. The way that you distill it. You should do, we're going to just start calling this segment, especially when it's just you and I, Social Autopsy with Christian Finnegan, because you really are very good at that. I mean, I certainly have always happened to agree with or find your moral values encompass the way you see things to be righteous. And I happen to agree with it. And when I haven't heard it, I'm like, oh man, I should think that way. I've always looked up to you that way. I remember you used to have you coming on the Sirius XM show.
Praise. I find it very embarrassing.
Well, when I used to have you on the Sirius XM show, I used to love having you come in there because my producers at the time, Chris and Alfred, certainly didn't always agree with you, and it was interesting to hear their pushback. I always found myself siding with you. I was like, yeah, I never even thought about it, but listening to you versus somebody else, I mean, maybe we need some more of that because I don't know. I just like the way you distill things.
Thank you. I just think that people like to dress up their bullshit in very high-minded, macroeconomic or geopolitical dress, when really it's, you made me feel bad and now I'm going to make you pay in any way I can.
That's really on point as well. Do you have any thoughts on Ron DeSantis? Or, we're talking so much about him because of his stupid launch on Twitter with Elon Musk, but Tim Scott launched this week. There are a number of candidates that have announced that they are running for the Republican nomination. But I wonder if we so badly want to get rid of Donald Trump that and not talk about him, that we're giving some kind of airtime to talking about them. But the truth is, he's going to eat them all up, as I've been saying, yum, 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 Pac-Man style.
Yeah, I think that that's probably true. But here's the thing. You know, I'm a big basketball fan, and you can look at a team and like, oh my God, this team is dominant. There's no way that they're not going to win the championship. They're clearly heads and shoulders above another team. And then one guy tears an ACL and everything changes. You know what I mean? That it's you're one thing away from the race being totally recast. You know, regardless of how his amazing genes or whatever, Donald Trump is an elderly man who does not live a healthy lifestyle. And people talk about Biden's age and Biden's health with good reason. And I am terrified in the same way that I was terrified the last 5 years of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life. Who's to say that Donald Trump isn't going to have an aneurysm while taking a dump sometime in the next 18 months, or have I'm not even trying to be gloomy or morbid. No, it's just you're talking about. I mean, yeah. So that's one thing, is that you want to position yourself for the lucky bounce, so to speak. Secondly, I really am starting to think that people have started, we've become so inured to this idea of like, oh, Trump will never face accountability. Like he's going to wriggle through almost to where like a lot of people on the left are almost sort of rooting for him to get away with it. Like there's a weird thing, especially on the quote unquote dirtbag left, of kind of like, ha ha ha, the FBI, like Jack Smith, like that's not going to come to anything. I don't know, man. Trump is not acting like somebody who is unconcerned. I think that it's entirely possible. I wouldn't even say likely, but it's not impossible that this case coming down with the documents could be a lot heavier than people think. And so between that and the Stormy Daniels thing and the January 6th thing and the Georgia thing, it's going to be a lot going on over the next year and a half. And it's not written in stone that he will not be convicted of major crimes. And at a certain point, I'm not saying that like his hardcore followers will ever jump ship, but you might see them stop defending him quite as hard. You might see them sort of just recede into the background. Kind of like when somebody knows they've lost an argument and they don't ever say like, oh, you're right, I'm wrong. They just stop talking. You know what I mean? They just sort of get silent all of a sudden. And so it's not impossible that he will actually face legal accountability and not be eligible to be president. And two, it's also not impossible that just the overwhelming pile of legal shit causes people to really start to worry about a second Biden term and back away. And that's certainly what DeSantis is banking on. And that's what everybody banked on in 2016. They were hoping like, oh, when Trump finally flames out, like we know he will, I'll be the one who never spoke ill of him. So all of his followers will come to me. Obviously it didn't work in 2016, but.
No, I think that's the only possible examination, analysis, punditry that is applicable. And it's a real chance that he could either, same with Biden in terms of health, but not with legal issues. I mean, I think he's getting indicted. I think he's going to jail. Oh,
he's definitely getting indicted. He's 100% getting indicted.
I think he's going to jail. George Conway said it.
I am kind of shocked by people who just write that off as if it's an impossibility. I understand people have been burned and all this sort of,
Mueller report,
Mueller she wrote and all that, all those accounts that were, that were a little histrionic and a little, silly for a long time. I get that, but it's like, I don't think people understand the gravity of the legal challenges he is currently facing. And there's only so much fundraising you can do. And his luck in the actual court systems has been abysmal for the past year since he left office. Like he has not, I mean, even when he was in office, but since he's left office, has he won any legal fights at all since he left office?
Maybe small ones, but almost entirely not. I mean, a lot of these judges have no patience for him or his lawyers. Obviously, the E. Jean Carroll case was historic for him. I think the other thing about Donald Trump, people don't realize this, is he's always, because of his stupid mentor, Roy Cohn, and his dumb dad, he's always thought that, well, I'm not going to pay my bills, I'm going to commit crimes, and then we can handle it in court, and I'll outspend them. Or whatever, if I lose, this is the point, when he has lost, because he's lost a lot, that's fine. It's the cost of doing business. He lost on, some kind of a judgment on putting up this building, but it was certainly worth it. He's making a lot of money on this building. I mean, he loses a lot, but it's worth it. Yeah. That's part of that.
Exactly. If I go to court 10 times and I lose 3 of them, I'm still ahead at the end.
Yeah. So, no, I think you're right. I like it because you and I are both pretty cynical, but also I think this is realism. I think it's we can't close out the potential possibility that he gets indicted and goes to jail. I mean, he's definitely getting indicted.
He's definitely getting indicted. I mean, if he's not indicted, then I will officially back away from politics for the rest of my life and say, I don't know anything and I don't know what this country is and I don't know what we're doing because and I'm not even saying because he should be indicted because he's done this. I'm just saying the signs, the tea leaves, if he's not indicted at this point, between Georgia and the feds, first of all, he already has been indicted. We should remind people of that. But if he's not indicted between the January 6th, the documents in Georgia, well, then I will officially say that I don't know anything about the way this government functions.
2 more things I want to ask you about. One, I probably should have, I can edit this out if you don't have anything to say, but Tina Turner passed away. You're, of course, writing new music for olds. Just came out this Wednesday. Love the Substack newsletter. Do you have any thoughts on Tina Turner? Obviously, you're not going to criticize her or something here on the show, but I mean,
I don't
overrated. Is that what you're going to say?
If you would ask me once upon a time, I may have said that, but no, I'm not. Overrated is not the right word. I think that she is an inspiration and an inspirational story, and that sometimes affects what people consider to be her actual literal music legacy. I think that, you're
separating the art from the artist in a way, in terms of like her life and the way that she led her life and what she'd been through is one thing that's amazing and inspiring. And her music, if you were to separate that, is what? I mean, she's great. Rock and roll is the genre, right?
Well, she was the person. I honestly, I feel like I'm going down a path that I don't really even believe. I mean, she was the one, and probably more than any other person, certainly more than any other female artist, who was able to merge rock and roll with soul music in a way that seemed credible in both directions. Where rock and roll people admired her and soul people, soul fans admired her. And she had that 1 in a million voice that just cuts glass, that she's obviously an incredibly soulful singer, but she had that sand in her voice, that rock and roll grit that really lent itself very well to rock music. And obviously the performance, she's a legend. I mean, she's an easy first ballot Hall of Famer, which of course she was. But when you actually look at the hits that she had as a solo artist, I mean, it's not that many really, in the post Ike and Tina. I mean, it's What's Love Got to Do with It, Private Dancer, Better Be Good to Me, which are, top 40 rock songs, but I don't think anybody, except for me, What's Love Got to Do with It, I don't think you'd call any of those like all-time greatest rock and roll songs in history.
Wow.
Sorry. Maybe you do want to edit that. I don't want to get any angry.
No, it was really, I think you gave her very high praise and then you went very specific. So I'll allow for it. What do I know? I really don't know. I mean, obviously, you know me. I know nothing about anything music. I didn't even know.
Let me put it this way. She is a top 40 powerhouse in a very, like a 5-year span in the 80s. And then of course she had like Simply the Best, in the 90s or whatever. But then you combine that with what she did with Ike Turner, which obviously is colored for all sorts of reasons. And just the incredible comeback story of which there probably haven't been as many people who have sort of gone away to the extent that she went away and then was able to sort of pull it back on her own strengths. I mean, it's a very idiosyncratic story. And I think sometimes that then makes people kind of think that she had more hits than she actually did, in my opinion.
I think I cannot wait till you get canceled. Based on your appearance on Stand Up with Pete Dominic. That'd be amazing. We'd both blow our heads off. So, Christian, last thing I wanted to ask you is, because I know I like to, this, I think. I like to tell you things, usually sometimes off air, sometimes on air, because I'd like to get your thoughts on them. But I think I have something to say about this, and I wanted to share this because I thought it was something other people might be experiencing. Last weekend, I went to my daughter's final dance recital. She's a senior in high school, not taking it too seriously anymore. It doesn't matter. It was at a venue. It was at a high school, and it was packed, sold out. And there I was in a high school auditorium, but this applies to any auditorium.
I was not aware you could get within 500 feet of a high school auditorium.
Yeah, that they lifted that order on me after last year. And so that's the liberation. All I do now is hang out in high schools. Anyway, what I don't want to do is hang out in their auditoriums, because my point is, this is like, I don't know what this is about, but I want you to psychoanalyze this, and I think it's common. I think it might be common. I'm not comfortable sitting next to people in an audience anymore. In a theater, in a venue, at a comedy club, at a jazz club. I don't go to jazz clubs. At a performance like this, at a Broadway show. I think it's entirely post-COVID or due to COVID, I think. But I sat there and I started to have, I wouldn't call it a panic attack, but it was very uncomfortable sitting next to a whole bunch of people breathing. And I never got COVID. I still haven't had it. I didn't feel comfortable. I'm pretty sure it's related to COVID and not the fact that I'm not out as much as I used to be because I work from home and stuff. But do you think that that's like happening with a lot of people not wanting to go to live performances because they just don't want to be in packed rooms with other people breathing?
Absolutely. 100% without a doubt. Yes.
I'm not saying I won't go, and I'm not saying that I'm right or that I'm not being irrational. I'm not saying those things. I'm saying I feel now differently than I used to. And
your lizard brain has a feeling that it didn't used to have.
Yes. Thank you.
Which is, I think that there is a lot of PTSD going, which is, maybe a slightly too dramatic of a term for what we're talking about.
Whatever it is, it's related. Yeah.
Yeah. But there is an awareness, not just of physical bodies surrounding you, but like breath in the air, like atoms coming from people's face orifices.
Yes.
That there is a slightly, people overuse OCD, but there's like a germophobia that is kind of settled in post COVID that is real. And I don't think people have learned I don't think it's going to last forever. I don't think so. And I also think between that and how easy it is now to be away from people and still function like what we're doing right now, that we're able to have this conversation. Right. And I feel like I'm seeing somebody right now. I'm not. You're 40 minutes away from me or whatever, but it feels like we're having a real human interaction. And so why do I need to be packed into a room with other people, And so when you combine those two, the fact that your awareness of other people's physicalities is heightened and the ease of not being around other people, I think it's definitely a real thing.
That's so good. And that's exactly why I put it out there to you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's obviously, I see a lot of it through the lens of my wife's venue, and there's still people coming out. And things are going trending upwards, certainly, but it's still there. People who are wearing masks, and God bless them. I have no problem with anybody wearing a mask. You should wear a mask anytime you feel like it. But it is a signal to me that people are still slightly antsy about it, and that it is an act of will to overcome it. I've long said, and I probably have said this on this podcast, like, I really think it's going to take 5 to 7 years for that to go away. If it goes away, I think it's going to require, at least in terms of New York City, the kids who are in junior high and high school to eventually move to New York with that, to not have that baggage and to just be like, I'm a horny 23-year-old. I'm going to the rock club. I'm going to be in a packed room because I want to be sweaty and dancing, and I want to go to the dance club or whatever.
There's a million reasons besides just being horny, loving to be out. Yeah, no, I think I love what you just said, because I think it's hopeful. It's like, yes, that's normal. We're still so close to it that it's normal, but it might, if we don't have another pandemic outbreak like that, and hopefully we don't, who knows, then maybe it fades. And I think you're probably right.
Imagine
about
what
that.
it must have been like. I mean, how long do you think it took after the bubonic plague for people to start congregating en masse? Dude, I imagine it was probably not immediate.
I don't know. I don't know that you would have a good time at our hangouts, but on Thursday night, we have like 40 to 60 people. It's been this way for 3 years. It like kind of fills my cup. Like, it's so social. There's so many different kinds of people. And I'm not saying this as a promotion of me or this, that lots of people are doing this, but like 60 people, it's like a packed bar, and we're all like laughing and talking and exposing ourselves. And I mean, that's a poor choice of words. A lot of people just take their dicks out. It's great. Come on by and be assaulted virtually. No, I mean, like, people are honest and vulnerable.
Straight up buckle, huh?
Anyway, but you
last
made that
night
point.
After the show, Sandy, Sandman, aka Sandman, who was nice enough to come out to my show last night, was trying. He was trying to get me to like check in on the hangout. I asked him, like, I said, like, yeah, let's sign on, but I don't think he was not able to get it working on his phone or whatever. But we tried to make it happen.
Great guy, a long time.
Yeah, seems very nice dude.
Yeah.
And it was weird though, because he said to me after the show, he's like, I know from listening to the podcast that you get awkward when people talk to you after the show because you think that they want something from you. And I was like, I don't remember saying that, but I feel very uncomfortable that you remember me saying that. And he's not wrong. I do sometimes feel uncomfortable. And it's not that I think people want something from me. It's more that I worry that there's some sort of expectation of it being an organic interaction when it's really hard to have an organic reaction after a show, because your head's in a different place. You're feeling pulled in different directions. Yeah. The other person knows more about you than you know about them. And so it feels there's a weird dynamic there. But anyway, I was very, very thankful for him coming out. And as I've said on this podcast, there's literally never been a Stand Up with Pete Dominic listener who I have met either in online interactions or in person who has not been kind and smart and polite and just like the kind of person that you would want to interact with after a show.
I love that. Well, I hope there's some in Boston that'll come out tomorrow night. Oh, by the way, before I let you go, just one more quick vulnerable question. If I drink Bud Light and shop at Target because I spend a lot of money on Bud Light and at Target, am I gay?
I feel like I should have a funny answer to that, but I'd say if that's what makes I don't know. I'm done.
It was my way of getting into the Target thing this week. I just tweeted, I was like, please, I don't want to read about this. Someone tell me what happened. But it's
I mean it's worrisome, the Target thing. It's because it's like, oh great, you're now encouraging these people to be like, oh, this works. See, let's up the pressure and threaten everybody. And I get it from Target's perspective too. It's like, if you're a minimum or slightly above minimum wage worker, it's like, why am I having to deal with these angry people? Because I get paid the same whether some asshole is threatening to beat the crap out of me or filming me for a stupid viral video or not. So can you not put me in the situation where I am threatened by people because I'm not making money off of it? You know what I mean? Like I get it from a labor perspective, why workers might be like, this is bullshit. You're like putting us in annoying and dangerous situations. But it does not bode well for, it's certainly not going to discourage these idiots from doing more of it.
Yeah, that's exactly good point. Yeah. All right, buddy. Appreciate your time as always. Go subscribe to New Music for Olds and see Substack.com and go see Christian if you're in or around anywhere in Boston. I'm sorry. I wish I knew that earlier. I would have promoted the hell out of it.
I should have. See, and it's my fault.
Go see him, everybody.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you real soon, man. Love you. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.
There you go, Christian Finnegan. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me. And folks, I hope you have a great weekend. I plan to drop a show on Monday, but we'll see. Maybe I'll end up taking the day off, but definitely back on Tuesday with more shows, more stand-up, and like I said, I'm planning ahead. So more new exciting guests on the show. And if you want me to do one of those quick hits where I just call somebody up and talk to them, can you talk real quick? My new series, let me know who you'd like to hear from and on what. Or if you just want me to get somebody on an issue real quick, let me know. standupwithpete@gmail.com for all your stand-up needs. Subscribe to this show at patreon.com/Pete Dominic. It's ad-free, but I can't do it without your support. So sign up now. Have a great weekend. And let's end on a quote inspired by Memorial Day. Here is George McGovern, who said, "I'm fed up to the ears with old men dreaming up wars for young men to die in." Let's not do that anymore, huh? Have a great weekend, folks.
Off of your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense, and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down, boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. The place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, to make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run.